all need to constantly ask ourselves that question and ask ourselves if we are truly objective in thinking about this, or if our ideas are being skewed one way or another because of the time, energy, and money we've put into some kind of collecting method that feels like it could take a hit from these various things.
I just, by the way, I just put this space live on my channel because I wanted to capture this because I feel like this is an interesting topic, right? I feel like there's a lot of good points you're making and Sam makes, and I think that like the essence of the space is definitely the future of what's going to happen, not in the present, but in the future. And so I think these are valid points that people on the wider internet, my YouTube channel, should definitely listen in, hear, and listen to the replay. So anyways, just wanted to let you guys know that this was live on the channel. I just made it live, so
Thanks for the
yeah.
heads up.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, man. Look, for me, one of the main things that I think about is, what is the intention of the idea, and does the idea hold enough validity for it to be able to pass forward into something that would make sense? Now, one thing I do think within this industry as a whole is that we're all early adopters of something so new, and so a lot of the times we're thinking ahead of the space. We're thinking about where things could go. And I think naturally that is it's a cause of progression within this industry for all of us, and that's why we're here, because we believe in the innovation of NFTs, we believe in the validity of what it's going to hold in the future. And so, I think it was naturally this concept, this idea of grading was going to be brought up. Who brings it to the table? Is it too early? It's hard to know, really. I think you could also argue the fact that we're in this space right now within NFTs is that, we're all early. The concept we're involved with is early. And so, it's hard to know when the right timeframes come around to when an idea should be validated or not. But, for me, the fact the conversation does keep getting brought up, it signifies that there's probably is going to be a branch into it. As a philosophical idea, for me, something I've always stood strong to is I've always liked to encourage the idea of innovation, of growth, to expand and to take ideas into new realms and to explore. And I think that's what we're doing now, is that the ideas are being explored. Are the ideas finite and set? No, that's the whole point. That's why an idea brought to the table is fun, it's exciting, and it should be exciting for us as a community to talk about, because it means we're at such an early stage to where everything can be spoken about and should be spoken about, and the pros and cons, the things that make sense, the things that don't. And I think CB, you touched on something really important, is that there is obviously a lot of us that are talking on this topic have an invested interest into specific ways in which we've collected, that we've invested. Some of us have gone low mint common, some of us have gone purely secret rares, and some of us have gone for VeVe or variants. And so the opinions of most are quite divided, and the direction in which this idea can go into may impact people's investment. And I can see that. I can see how that can create that hostility because of the way in which the investment style has stemmed from the beginning. But one thing I do promote is that we, as an industry, we are constructive in listening to new ideas. One thing I love about when I hear about the vision of where VeVe goes is that, and what's always attracted me to this vision, this community, is that we all come from such different places that when we come together, so many great ideas and so many different thoughts and feelings are brought to the table that we can learn from each other and grow from one another. And I think this is just another one of those topics, one of those natural progressions to where we will innovate in this area.
And by the way, and Sam, by the way, and everybody, every time there's a new development with any kind of new use case for a comic or a collectible, as soon as you can do a new thing in your showroom. I'm not a showroom guy. I've never put anything in a showroom. It's never really interested in me. But there's a very dynamic, culture of showroom. What you can do in a showroom. Guess what? This whole conversation will pop up again with as much excitement and different points of view as soon as something else has an ability to do something different in a showroom. That's just one example of the way this is an evolving space. This space is all about flexibility and adaptation. And as soon as our thinking begins to get too concrete in one direction or another, it'll feel, new ideas will feel like they go against our grain. And I think I personally like to just put aside all emotion and say, okay, let me keep my ears open for what my spidey sense is going off on what feels right to the market. what people are willing to buy, what people are willing to pay for something, why they're willing to pay for that, and just observe that emotionlessly, if that's even a word again, and sit back and enjoy the roller coaster ride that this is.
Yeah, for sure. I forget, about the monetary amount sometimes because I'm having fun. I'm having fun collecting, and this is something I used to do as a child. Like, yeah, there's the monetary side for sure, but I think we also have to realize like there's the fun side too. Like, these collectibles are fun to collect and you get to interact with them in your showroom in augmented reality. And there's those extra utilities. Like, imagine, I mean, we still have these arguments with traditional collectors, physical collectors that, hey, you can't do this with an NFT. You can't make a comic book as an NFT. Like, this goes against what I'm used to. And so it's kind of the same thing here. It's like, at what point do we kind of like pull each other down and stop innovating, right? Like, there's always going to be people pushing the boundary, pushing what is possible, and running those 4 minute miles, so to speak. And imagine the first person, building the first, NASA rocket or whatever, and saying, oh, that's not possible. You can't do that. And for me, it's always innovative. And I may not agree with stuff all the time, or if there's a new system, but I believe that there's room for constructive feedback. And I can't imagine that when Facebook first rolled out that it was perfect. And I know that's like completely off topic, but
Kyle,
because that's a platform.
it's totally on topic, I think, because I view VeVe, I view everything we're going through right now with NFTs, with VeVe, with everything else, the introduction of or the slow adoption of AR and VR into the mainstream, as long as that might take, as black and white television, box set TV, when it was introduced with three or four or five network channels, the simplicity of that and the degree to which that traveled to where we are now feels like a huge distance to travel. Well, guess what? Where we are right now is equivalent in its simplicity and its baseline functionality as that black and white TV was with the introduction of television. Where we are right now will be so adorable to look back on 10, 20, 30 years from now. And these conversations are really, I think recordings of these conversations will be fascinating to listen to, because I think we're on point with certain things and other things we totally cannot predict. But yeah, the simplicity of what we're experiencing right now, for me, and the way that relates to any kind of early technology and how unpredictable the evolution of that technology is, makes me think anytime things like this are being discussed or pounded into the ground or whatever, however you feel about the topic, I'm always game to listen in, because it's endlessly interesting to me.
Yeah, and to me too, it's like I can't imagine going to a vault builder and saying like you can only stack these collectibles or put these collectibles in the showroom a certain way. But like what we've seen in last year is people are building abstract pieces of art as showrooms. Like these are literal pieces of art, like that they're taking all their collectibles, the common, it doesn't matter what rarity they are, they're taking them and putting them into, different variation forms and unique experiences. And for me, that's like so cool to see. Just watching that grow. And for me, that's important because it shows how, people's minds work differently. And so always challenging what's possible. And
Kyle, you know
I
what
don't
that
know.
shows for me? That shows for me that the human tendency for creativity and imagination has already exceeded the limitations that the VeVe infrastructure is providing, which I think is an amazing sign. Because if people were, even though I'm not, I don't do anything with the vault. I think what's so interesting is that if people were not doing anything with the vault, it would indicate that people were complacent. Their creativity, their imagination was complacent in what VeVe's offered. But just looking at the way that the human need for moving forward, for using what we have at our disposal and creating new ideas and new things with that shows the lack of limitation on where all of this could go, because we're already bursting at the seams with creativity about what we've been given so far.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think at its core, when you think about the showroom, the creativity within these new asset classes, I think what we're seeing is that acceptance of innovation. Um, at its core, NFTs, especially in the time frame in which we're playing within, that's what it's all about. It's the acceptance of this new asset class, the utility, what it can hold, the future potential of what it holds. And so, I remember Tom Bilyeu came into one of the spaces, and he said that what attracted him to VeVe was so much was what he saw on YouTube was these people who were innovating within these collectibles, within these new assets, and seeing how creative these spaces were becoming. And so, at its core, I think what you're touching on there is the acceptance of something new. And in a way, it can be quite difficult at times for a lot of people to see that. And I think when we reference comics specifically, traditional grading has its own set rules, and it has its own set way in which people do it, and its own value system. And the way in which people are trying to correlate that into NFTs can be hard to understand at times, because it's not in the same. It's not two in the same. It's not the same thing. And we haven't got deteriorating assets, and they aren't exposed to weather conditions. And the value proposition of a high grade does seem to be in somewhat can be misunderstood, because the correlations between the two are very different. They're two completely different mediums. But one thing I'm excited about, and what I was touched on before, is that the acceptance of innovation is that as a community, I think if we constructively have these conversations like we are now, and we accept the timeline that we're in, and we understand where we are within this moment in time, that when we look 5-6 years down the line, grading will likely be just a normal aspect, and this will just be a conversation in history in which where this idea began to stem from, and so for me that's at its core, I'm an accepting. I've always been accepting of new ideas, and it's a belief system of mine. And so I would like the idea to be explored more. Just in the same way you were just talking about the fact that people utilizing showrooms. I think there was a time period where I'd imagine before VeVe was around and they presented this idea that we'd have probably struggled to believe that people would even use it for that use case, and yet now you've got people that build rooms, they build like whole new, like, some of the things that I've seen done with the showrooms has been truly mind blowing to me, and the way in which people use these assets. And so I'm not a believer of closing off an idea. I'm a firm believer in at least opening a door and allowing that idea to be expressed enough to see whether there is a fit. And so, yeah, that, a long story short, I think if we accept within ourselves why we're here in the first place, which is in fact the ability to understand what this asset is and where this asset's going to go, then I think we can also accept the fact that new ideas are going to be presented, and new things are going to be presented, and new innovations are going to happen. And if we close the door, then ultimately I think we're closing the door on the thing we've involved ourselves in the first place, the very route in which we're involved with in this development of NFTs and where this view is going. And so, look, that's my belief system. I'm not saying that's for everyone, but that's my personal core belief. That's why I am here, because I believe in the future. And so for me, I would like to see the idea of comic grading be explored more. And so I know it's not a popular opinion for all, but it's mine. So
Yeah, and I agree. That's a lot of good fine points, and we are here so early. Like it's one of our own that's created this grading system, and I think we have a little bit of influence there, just to say, hey, like maybe have you thought about this, or ask more questions. And I think they're actually holding a space tomorrow, so I'm kind of interested in what they see and what they say and the questions they answer as well. But I feel like we have an opportunity to say our part as well. So it's not like this is the end all be all. This is just something in the very beginning phase. And it like you said, like the whole essence of this platform and space. And I just think back to when David and Dan were going to, these brands and IPs pitching the idea of VeVe, and they were probably like, "Are you joking me? Like this as an NFT, like NF what? Like I could never imagine a comic book as a this digital thing." And then fast forward to today, we're here. We're like this is mass adoption. Like things are taking off, and we get to be a part of this process, which is almost like a privilege, you know, like especially like a lot of us have platforms now, and we get to talk about it, and that's, in my opinion, that's a an honor, and a privilege to be a part of, not only this community but the NFT community as a whole, and get to speak into these things. So yeah, that's the important part of it for me, is just realizing we are here so early, and not getting so like caught up in the being so close and so involved that we forget to take a step back and realize, like, this is like, this space is still a baby, and we gotta definitely nurture it, and put our part into it, and continue to educate ourselves and continue to grow. And so I don't know, that's my thoughts. And as I told you guys, or Sam, I told you right when we got the space started, like I was saying last year that somebody was going to create a grading system. So for those people that just jumped in, like last year I called, like I was in the Discord doing the drop lives like every week, and really like all the time with a lot of the older OGs like Granola, Cryptomaniac, and Geomite. And that's what one of the things I was saying is there's going to be grading in some way. Like somebody's going to come out with it, and I didn't think it was going to happen for another like 5 years, to be honest. I didn't think it was going to come a year from now. Like that's insane to me, to think how fast like innovation is happening in the space. So yeah, that's the things that I thought was inevitable is happening, and I know there's going to be pushback. That's something like with crypto. It was the same thing. Back in 2017 when I first started my YouTube channel, I was saying like, hey, like NFTs are going to be bigger than just like the, there's going to be a lot of use cases for this. Like crypto is going to replace like, you're not going to have, for instance, like your mortgage deed. It's not going to be the same. Like it's going to be like a digital certificate, aka NFT or whatever, right? And then like NFL tickets. And fast forward to now, like that stuff is happening. But back then, people were calling me crazy, stupid, and like I can imagine like Einstein and him coming out with the theories that he came up with in the beginning. People calling him stupid, and he didn't know what he was talking about. He was crazy. And then fast forward, like the things and predictions, like he said, were true. And so I see that in this space as well. Is like there's a lot of people that will challenge you in the beginning, and then when that stuff rolls out, happens, then they're like, oh, okay, like, well, maybe this is going to happen. And so I'm not saying like, this is the end all be all like grading, thing, but it's just something that I saw as a natural progression in the collectible space as NFTs go. And yeah, I think people are going to relate. They relate with themselves a little bit on the physical. Like people are marrying their NFTs. Like we're going to see a lot more like that bridge, if you will, people building bridges. And I think that's it's special. It's a connection to people, and if that's what makes them happy, and that the grading may not be for everybody, and that's fine. But like for some of these people out there, that's going to like help them bridge the space, and that's going to provide them like happiness and value and whatever, right? And so anyways, that's my thoughts. And I get there's going to be different thoughts on that, and I'm curious. I'm open to it. I'm still learning. Like I'm not a grading master by any means. Like I'm still learning about comics. Like VeVe has brought me into the comic collecting space, and one of my first comics like that is worth anything is my Batman 423. And so yeah, so I'm still learning, and as far as innovation goes, like I'm pretty good at that part, in the nerdy geeky crypto parts. But so yeah.
That's the point here, right? It's almost not necessarily even about the comics. It's about the acceptance of whether this can develop into something. Um, you know, one thing I do love about this space and being a part of it is that there's so many diverse people that know so many things that I just don't know about. And so before I invested into comics in the beginning, I didn't know anything really. I've been traditional trading cards, and I know a lot about the field in which I'm passionate about, which is Pokemon TCG. But when it comes down to this particular area of the space, I've been learning ever since I've started collecting within comics, and so I think what that's shown is that inherently NFTs create that bridge point, like you were talking about. It's created that bridge in me to be a collector of comics, and now I actually have appreciation more of the physical side of things. I've been to comic stores, and I've started to like expose myself to sort of physical collecting, and so I think if we want this area to continue to grow, I think we have to create those new bridges, like you speak about, those new stemming areas, the new areas of interest that outside collectors and outside people are more familiar with, then to understand the value proposition, what's going on here, and at least stem an idea to be curious enough to look into it. And so, if grading comics is their thing, if that's something that helps them bridge over, and because that's something they accept within the traditional way in collecting, then I just don't necessarily see the really heavy negative flaw there. I do think it's important that whoever the person who creates this idea and innovates within it, whether it's commons and crypto or it's someone else in the future, are we too early? Like I said before, it's hard to know, but as long as the intention's right and it's done from a neutral standpoint and it's created with the intention to help to grow the space rather than build someone's collection or pump someone's bag, as however people like to put it. But I mean, the reality is that in a couple of years' time, we may look back at this moment and realize that these were important conversations. These were important areas of innovation, and that, in somewhat each individual point, both positive and negative, was just an idea that was explored more to help create more structure to this new stemming area, this new bridge. And so, and I like what you said earlier as well, Kyle, that to understand like the people that run this company and where they came from, in 2018, I think one of the most inspired conversations that I've heard David Hughes talk about was on the Disney AMA, where he said, they were organizing that deal since 2018. It took them the best part of 3 years to get that idea over the line. And so, it's important to remember that when you're early into a space in the way that we are, that there's going to be challenges. There's going to be people that may not understand. There's going to be people that they naturally connect with straight away. But as a community, we should try our best to at least allow those bridges to be built and not burn them. We don't want to burn a bridge, because then we're closing the door potentially people seeing this and appreciating it and understanding the asset. And so, I'm a promoter in anything that's going to help develop the space, as long as it's with the correct intention, it's done in the right way. And that draws back to the point I said before. It's as long as the intent's right, and I think that's important. Is that the intent's right and it's the right time and it makes sense, then I struggle to understand why it would be so incredibly damaging. I do, because ultimately, in the end of the day, the market defines value, and so what someone's willing to pay for something is ultimately what it's worth. That is just the reality of any market, irrelevant to grading. You can grade stuff in real life that's worth nothing and comes back and just isn't something that people want to buy. It's not the grade that defines the value, it's the perception of the value and the way the market perceives that value that causes people to want to pay. The reason first edition based Charizard is so expensive is not just inherently because of its scarcity, but it's also its desirability, its history, what it represents. And so, you got to remember that there is dynamics to value. It's not just one way. Just because something's put inside a plastic slab and preserved for infinite time doesn't necessarily mean that's the reason why it's valuable. There has to be more to it. And ultimately, that's where collecting drives into. And so, I think that the idea that it's going to completely manipulate, destroy, pump people's bags, I think it's a misconception, because in any field, it's the way in which we see value is ultimately what we're going to willing to pay for it. I'm not going to buy something just because it's graded. If I need to want it to buy it. So,
Sam, I totally agree, but I also will be sort of a neutral observer of when there are extreme negative reactions to things like some sort of overall judging body of grading. And the reason I'm fine being a neutral observer of that, regardless of how I feel, whether or not I align myself with that negative reaction, is because there's a reason that negative reaction is coming up. And the reason that negative reaction is coming up is connected to the collective experience we've had creating this market and understanding, just having this sort of collective sort of almost subconscious understanding of why things move the way they move in the market. And when we see things attempting to impose something that doesn't reflect that organic process, is when naturally an organism sends in the antibodies to challenge those foreign elements. So I understand. Then I think there's always a way to package our response to something. There are the emotional ways, there are the less emotional ways, but I'm always down to listen to why, to understand the ones and zeros as to why those reactions are coming up.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with that, by
and
the way. Oh, you go. Oh, you go.
oh, okay, yeah. All I was just gonna say is, yeah, when it comes to value and like, you know, perception and everything like that, like I think a lot of people have like pick sides, and for me, it's just like picking what I like. Honestly, it's like, I think the Todd Batman for me is special, for several different reasons. Like as a kid, I collected that, and now I'm proud of it. Growing up, and it's worth a lot. Like not necessarily being an OG. Like yeah, there's that part of it too, but like for me, that's that connection, and I may collect that versus a low mint comic or a secret rare or whatever. Like for me, it's like all preference, and I think people have like, I don't know, it's like they almost go out of their way to forget about that fun part and look at this primarily like a like yeah, and I get there's like tons of money involved. I get it. Like, but at this end of the day, these are collectibles. Like these are things that were like this is David Yu's vision. Like he's a collector, and first and foremost, like this app was created by and for collectors, and so that's important to remember versus just looking at this thing like, oh, this is just games. These are just money. Like I get that part. Like I came from the crypto space, but at the same time, like for me, it's a lot of it's the fun part, and when I see people tear each other down, that part is not fun. And I think there's a way to do that. There's a right way to do that. And, you know, CB has a point there on the antibody part, but at the same time, like there is the cancer part that's in the organism too. Like you got to get that out of there too. So, some people just don't know how to, process information or whatever. And I don't know, that's important too. It's just like not letting people just tear each other down as well. But I think
Kyle,
there's a right way.
I totally
Go
feel
ahead.
you on that. But the funny thing about that is that there there are different perspectives on what is the cancer. You know what I mean? I'm not saying one is or one isn't, but the amazing thing about watching this market and these conversations is the differences of opinion and the difference of perspective on what is the foreign element coming in. What is the cancer? Is it a perspective coming in? Is it a certain way of expressing ourselves? It just makes me think about the central question oftentimes presented in Star Wars, which is, there's always another point of view, which is everything is about point of view.
Yeah, I just invited Miguel up here. If anybody wants to come up here, more than welcome. Just I'm gonna get some speaking of perspectives, get some fresh perspectives up here, and but yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add that to that point quickly is that, I think there's ways of saying the same thing. As long as we do it in a respectful way and we talk to each other like human beings and not and not get too hostile to the degree in which we start attacking character and start actually talking about the problem and the idea, I think then we can open the debate to constructive conversation. I think the problem is that when the conversation starts talking about start driving to people's intentions and then start talking about their beliefs and now you're making perception over honest logic and I just think it's important that we stick to the core root of the ideas being presented and not like drift too far away, because then what ends up happening is the idea gets lost in translation. It's not even about the idea anymore, it's about the person, and for me I think that ends up closing doors rather than opening them. So I just thought I'd share that because I do think it's important because I'm all up for constructive conversation. I'm happy to have different points of view and different perspectives, but there is a line. I think it's important that line's drawn and we do it in a respectful way because the reality is that we're all we're all technically we're all in the same space, and yeah, we may not agree on the same ideas, but we're all still people. And I think if we can constructively chat and share both positive and negatives together, and I think we win and progress as a community. So
And I totally agree. And I'm curious what the Gale has to say, man. The Gale, I've been in chats with the Gale, and man, Gail, man, you're so positive, and I really do appreciate that and respect you about that. So I'm really curious, kind of what your thoughts are, and when it comes to that the whole subject on that subject matter.
What's up? Yeah, I just joined. So what's the topic again? Topic?
So we were just talking about like when there's something new and the whole idea of kind of like innovation, and you know we were basically talking about that. Obviously, that's looping in the whole grading system, and there's definitely obviously pushback, and we're just talking about like how to come together as a community and just really respond things, I guess, more of a positive way. I think there's like, it's easy to like point fingers or easy to like say stuff, but like I think there's a right way to do it, and we're just kind of talking about like that whole keeping it positive, keeping it 100 with the community. And imagine Dan and David going to all these brands and IPs pitching the idea of even an NFT comic in general. Like they probably got a lot of no's, and they had to keep being persistent and seeing the vision through. And had it not been for Dan and David, we might not have comic NFTs. So I don't know, is there a right way to kind of like provide feedback on something that's new, or what's your thoughts on that?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like I see this whole, the topic of grading. I see it as an interesting social experiment. I'm finding it fascinating to see how people are reacting to a new idea being presented. There's some people I guess that feel threatened by it because for whatever reason, well, all of our NFTs are tied to money, right? Like if money wasn't involved, I don't think half the people would be as tight or care as much. But since money is tied to our NFTs, we're so emotionally attached that anything that may be perceived as devaluing, our current NFTs are going to be frowned upon. They're going to be challenged. They're going to be opposed. They're going to be tested by every angle. They're going to be speculated upon. So, when people judge the character of comics and crypto, I can see why, because people are wondering like why, just why? Why is this happening? Why is this? But I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it should be expected. Whenever somebody introduces something new to anything, it's gonna be questioned. But is there a right way? That's hard to say because I remember back when the Foster and Andre Jig situation, they tried to surprise people and some people took it one way, some people took it another way, but speculation happened. And when it comes to the BB community, we are very speculative. We are very excited about NFTs, and we can take things from 0 to 100 real quick. So you got to be really tactful when you introduce things to the VeVe community because, win Pokemon, that's the people you're talking to. Win Pokemon, win money transmitter license, and when you try to introduce a new system that's gonna possibly challenge the way people have been collecting since they got here, it's gonna be challenged. So I don't know if there's a right or wrong way, but you can really be you gotta sometimes you just got to put things out there and see how it plays out. I don't know what their plan is. I don't know what they're trying to where they're trying to take it, but they put it out there for people to challenge and judge. So I guess we're gonna see tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah, no doubt. So I invited a couple more people up there. Just on that note, like I think I've developed personally more in the last year because the PV community, more than like ever in my life. Like there's been situations where I definitely could have responded better, and we're all not perfect, and I think that people should always get those second chances. But yeah, anyways, that's my thoughts, and yeah, you guys are welcome to speak. Whoever I invited up here.
You wanna go,
Hey,
Ryan?
yeah, hey there. Thanks for letting me speak. I just wanted to say I've been listening for the last probably like half hour or so, and I think the conversation is really interesting and cool, and I really appreciate you guys for having it because there's a practical side to VV, right? Just looking at the market, seeing what you want to buy, seeing what you want to sell, just tracking analytics and whatnot. But then there's the subjective side where it's the human nature side of it all. We have passions about things, we have desires about things, we have personal attachment to things, right? Like me personally, I'm more attached to Disney collectibles as opposed to maybe some more collectibles on the artist side. So there's just a lot of personality that comes into play too. And I think with regards to the comic grading system, I haven't been too aware of like the conversation around it. I just started seeing some tweets about it and some comments about it, so I can't like speak on it from an expert analysis, but I do echo like kind of what Sam was saying earlier is, you know, we should, as a collective group of people, encourage and want to see innovation in the space that's going to make it more well-rounded. And I do think that there are experts in different areas in the real world that can bring a lot of value into what VeVe can become, right? I still think it is extremely new. And since I started in this space, which really isn't that long, I'm no expert by any means. I get passionate about different things in my life. And I know VeVe has become a big passion of mine. But when people have expertise in the real world that they could bring value into a space with, I think that is something that should be entertained or heard. And then you take a step back, you evaluate it, and then you see how it can fit into the bigger picture. And so, for instance, like a podcast like Comics and Crypto, introducing some sort of grading system for the VeVe comics. I think I saw something about that today. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I saw a little bit of like backlash toward them for developing some type of grading system for the comics. And I thought like, well, these guys are literally like doing research on comics every single day. Like this is their job. This is their expertise. This is what they are trying to do for a living. And so if they can bring some type of value into the space in that area that we're not really aware of or we can't see yet, I think that's a great thing and an awesome thing. And we should rally behind that and try to see if that could work. But yeah, like I said, I mean, it is very new. It's a very it's all really speculative. Nobody's an extreme expert in the space. We just haven't been here long enough to see the overall trends of the market. And so I don't know if that offers anything, but I just figured I'd speak on it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation. I think, like I said before, I'm not even sure the conversation is necessarily about comics. I think it's about, where the development of this space is going to go. I'm interested. The thing is, I've learned so much from so many different experts in this space around comics, and there's people in this crowd right now that I would be nowhere near I wouldn't even know where to even start with comics if it wasn't for some of the people that have shared information to this space. And so I just think, for me, what's exciting about the idea is not necessarily whether it's been presented in the correct form now, but it's the ability to see whether is this innovation something that could happen. Has the idea been presented in a way that's right? No one knows yet. I think that's the whole point in which the conversation's being brought up. I'm just excited about the development of the space. I'm excited about whether this is going to be something, and I think there is potential for it. Is it the right time? Like I said before, it's hard to know, but someone's going to do it, and so whether we like it or not, that's just the reality of the way a space develops. If there's enough connecting elements and there's enough bridge points, someone's going to try and do it. And so it's whether, as a community, we can come together and at least have constructive conversation with one another to explore new ideas, to explore what we believe is right, what we believe is wrong, and maybe come to some type of collective understanding. That's where I would like us to be at, because there's so many experts in this space that I feel like could bring so many different diverse thoughts and feelings to the table, that surely at some point, if enough constructive conversation happens, enough ideas are spoken about, that a system could be presented that could create balance and between all different types of collectors. Like, I would like to believe that's possible. I'd like to believe that as an idea that could be explored. And so that's something I would like to see. I'd love to see all the biggest comic idealists and collectors come together and just have a conversation about it and see if we can do it in a respectful manner that can bring new ideas and innovation to the table, good or bad, but done in a respectful way.
Sam, I love everything you just said, and I want to offer a counter to the last thing you said, which is that I believe VeVe is this market is such a new animal that I actually question whether or not there is such thing as an expert in this space. I would present the idea that the only expert in this space so far is the market itself. Yes, you have experts who specialize in physical comics. You can have experts who specialize in physical collectibles. But I think we're looking at a new paradigm. And so far, the only thing that I can view, the only thing that has optics that I can fully trust is the market where you see people buying and selling, and that dictating, oftentimes where things go. And even that is still quite imperfect because we don't have full transparency on history of sales and exactly, what was paid for what. So I wanted to present that because I think it plays an important role in what we're seeing as reactions coming along to something that's presented that may not accurately reflect what we've witnessed ourselves in this market in terms of community sentiment on the idea of value.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like nobody, like you said, nobody's an expert. Yeah, we're charting new territory. We are all pioneers, and that's
Yeah.
why we're having these discussions because nothing is concrete. David and I mean they just came out with the FA tags and FE tags, stuff like that. Like they're still even they don't have the foundation. So we are just like these conversations are awesome because like we are way ahead of the game. People don't even know about NFTs, and we're over here talking about grading NFT comics. People don't even know this exists. But yeah, I think what Sam said earlier, he said two key words, and he said belief and system. So basically, what this grading situation is, it's a new belief system being introduced. I remember when NFT Pirates, they made us aware, or they made some of us aware with low mint numbers. Nobody was really looking at mint numbers until it became aware, and it makes sense. It's logical, so people adopted it. We buy low mints because it makes sense and they matter. So now everybody knows that low mints matter, but it's a belief system that people adopted.
So check this out,
Mhm.
Gail. Let me just hop in real quick. Sorry to interrupt, but I actually want to counter that by saying in the Telegram days before the market existed, I noticed, and I've been in VeVe as long as anyone else, when Batman Black and White was still in store, that organically, right off jump, low mints were organically, the collective sentiment was around low mints being valued higher. And that's one of the reasons I became a low mint collector, because I found that to be such an organic process and not one that was sort of pushed by any one perspective. I saw that develop immediately. I don't know if that was anyone else's experience, but I wanted to add that because I know that this point comes up sometimes, that people were put on to the value of low mints from an individual or this or that. Really was not my experience, but if someone has a different experience that
Yeah,
that spans that far back, let me know.
yeah. No, I was saying he kind of like no, yeah, he didn't create the low mints, but he brought it to a large majority's people's awareness who weren't really thinking that way. And then once enough people became self-aware or aware, or whatever, like it became wider knowledge. So it's like it's not a secret anymore. It was a secret back then until
Yeah,
he
yeah. CB, you have to remember, like the Telegram. Right now, there's people who don't even know what Telegram is. So those days was like so early on that let's say he didn't create it, but he like kind of brought it out more because
exactly.
a lot more people were going to YouTube and stuff. And I just came up to say what's up to you guys. I love seeing the Gil up here. I love seeing Kyle up here because I'm always bothering Kyle in the DMs to get on spaces. So it's really
Yeah, it's
dope
good to
to
see you,
finally see him
brother.
in here. Yeah, man. And I know he won't say it and he doesn't need to say it, but anyone in this space who's new, if you have that O right by your name, there's one guy to thank up there, and that's Kyle. But I appreciate you sitting in here. I was really hoping to come in here and not have to hear about the grading thing, but it's, they pulled me back in, But besides that, just shout out to you. I see good people in here, Sam. I see Wendy down there. Hopefully she'll say something. But I think what we've learned is and if you're a history buff or anything, the first person over the hill or whatever will always get those arrows, and that's just what's gonna happen here. And there's some stuff that will win and some stuff that won't. And think about what the Gil's saying. People don't even know what NFT is, and we're in here critiquing how to grade a comic book on a digital platform. So just kind of perspective, and Gil is so damn good at that. I don't know if it's a third eye or what. He's so damn good at that. But VeVe itself is the first company that seemed to work where these guys who created it failed on a couple of projects. So like this is no, it's not so bad if Sean and them come up with this and then they fail, or we kind of just get better and better with it, over time. That's how things get created into a work of art. It's not just kind of the first idea and that's it. And I think people kind of forget that. But yeah, I'll let you guys keep going. I see NFT pirates up here. Salute.
Yeah, but to finish my thought, I was just gonna say that like CB mentioned organic, and that's the key word. I think things that I think you know when something feels right, like when you hear the truth, you know when something feels right, and if it's organic, it's gonna take hold. It's gonna evolve, it's gonna adapt, and it's gonna be adopted. So yeah, I mean, time will tell. Either people are gonna accept things or people aren't. But I think it's as simple as that.
And there's people who came up with stuff that did not catch on. So it's just it's just how it goes, man. The good ideas will come up.
Yeah, that's the main aspect to think about here, is that yeah, the idea in a way it's initially presented may not necessarily be something that correlates with everyone, but I think the fact that conversation's happening and that it keeps getting brought up is more of an indication that the likelihood is the bridge is going to happen. And so, what I'm more excited about is that, how will this idea look? How will it present? How will it innovate? And if as a collective, if we come together and accept that innovation, then I think we're doing a good thing as a community. And it is funny. I think that you make such a good point, the gal. We're talking about innovations within innovations. No one really, NFTs in itself is an innovation. Now we're talking about, the forward-thinking idea of a grading system within this, and like you said, there's a ton of people out there that don't even know this even exists. So, yeah, it's exciting that we're even having these conversations. Right or wrong. It's going to be fun to see how it develops. What we don't want to do though is close the door. And so, but I see Chad's come up here, so I'm definitely interested to get his take on this.
You there,
Art,
buddy?
arg
He's busy in his pirate ship selling the seven seas. Oh, there you go. Or maybe he's getting his mic ready. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Oh, you there?
He's eating a poutine.
Hoist the sails.
Par how do you say it? Parlay?
Parlay.
Uh, no, but yeah, while he's doing that or fixing something there, yeah, I totally agree. We're in a new space. There's many more innovations that are going to come, and especially they're going to introduce digital signatures, and I think that's going to be big too. So I wonder how that's going to play in the grand scheme of things. I think we'll have to have space, but there's going to be spaces going for that too. What value is that going to bring from the inker, the writer, the whatever, right? And if you have multiple signatures or all their signatures, we're gonna have to draw a little bit of parallel to the physical anyways there, a little bit. So what's that look like? You know what I mean? So I think that we're gonna continue to try to find value in some of this stuff. But Chad, you there? No? Gregario, man, I know you've been trying to chat. And I'll get everybody rotated here in just a second too.
Yeah,
See if
no
you have a
worries.
question.
How's it going, everyone? I just want to thank you for letting me up. I just wanted to share, I guess, my perspective on this, and I think it's great that we're trying to find ways to innovate things. But I think we should also be thinking a bit larger picture as a whole, since like the NFT space is like so new as well, and to make sure we can probably incorporate things that can be related to every NFT in a sense, and not specifically just comics in general. Since we all live or all NFTs will be living on the blockchain, and I do understand that comics is a great place to start since they are related, or they have a real grading system in the real world that can be replicated here. But I think there are other points as well that should be taken into consideration just because NFTs will be or are a new asset class. Like for example, if a specific person owned an NFT, will that be like adding a certain value compared to one that had not? I guess just thinking of different perspective, or just broadening everything and not specifically just comics.
Another thing too is like it's from the Pokemon space is like, there was like the Korean and Japanese Pokemon cards which have a different valuation as well. So we're gonna have to determine like those, geolocated, NFTs and collectibles and what they might be worth in the future as well. So that's something to consider also, and how are we going to look at that, and how is somebody new coming into the space going to get that information? And I think those are all important things to kind of think about.
Yep, and to piggyback on the idea of that how early we are. It's like we're cavemen, right? And we have just invented fire. Did you know? I mean, the cavemen had no idea about jet fuel in the future. Like fire was gonna like allow planes to fly in the sky, and I think we're at the caveman fire stage where we just like found it and we're excited, but we have no idea the utility that's going to be brought to these items. So to try to, I think we just need to take our time with it and see how it develops. Like it's kind of too early because we don't even have, transactions. We can't even see purchase history. We can't see. There's so much that we don't know that we don't know. It's like, I mean, it's good to have, have these conversations and to bring up ideas, but it's just so early. I don't know.
I was gonna mention too. Sorry, I got rugged there. I was gonna mention too. Like I think that some people aren't gonna buy even hear of VeVe for another 5 years. It's literally so new that I tell my friends about it. Or I was even in like Disney Springs, and I was like taking pictures of my collectibles in different areas and stuff, and like you don't really see that happening right now, and you might not see it for another 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then somebody will come into this space and adopt it and just find out what it is, and what it can be. And so we really, yeah, that's the big thing, is like there's so many people that don't even know what an NFT is yet still. We think a lot of people know what it is just because we're doused in the space and we're being updated on a consistent basis every single day. But the world outside of kind of kind of VeVe and just the NFT space in general, they just don't know what an NFT even is. And so I do think, like, if you believe in the concept and the idea of VeVe and what it can be, right, is this idea that, we always have this device in our hands now. It does dictate a lot of the different things we do in our lives, whether it's work, family, friends, experiences. And then being able to create an experience in real time through your phone with a digital collectible, I think that whole idea is going to become kind of like a mainstream thing that people just, it's going to be a normal thing. And that's, I guess, why for me I'm so passionate about VeVe, because I believe in that concept and that idea. And so I guess whenever I'm looking at like the significant dips in the market, and when things tank, or I lose some money or whatnot, I'm more so am thinking like, okay, but what about when the next 2 million people adopt this platform and are excited about digital collectibles? What about the next 5 million? What about the next 10 million? And that might not happen for another 5 years, but that's, I guess, kind of the mindset that I'm kind of taking when I'm thinking through what VeVe is.
Yeah, timeline's important. I've said this quite a few times, but to understand at what point in history we're in. I mean, I think you made a really good point. Is that we're in this every day, all day, that it can feel like it's just something everyone knows. But today I was talking with an estate agent, and I asked them, have you heard of NFTs? And they said, no, I've never heard of it before. And it seems like I've asked a few people just randomly. I would walk past, or if I'm in a coffee shop, you heard of NFTs, but just to get an idea, because sometimes you can be so encapsulated by the community you're in that you can forget sometimes that there is a whole world that like does not have an involvement in the same level in which we have. And so for me, it's once you accept that and understand that how new this space actually is, and that really the reality is that it started in 2017, but it was really became more mainstream in 2021. And so we've got years and years and years and years of progressive growth and innovations and ideas and concepts and failures and successes to see within the space before we really, before we really start to see that real mainstream mass adoption effect taking place. And so for some people, that's just not good enough, and they're going to struggle with that idea, and being patient enough and consistent enough to see it through is going to be, they're going to jumping off the train early. For some, they're going to stick it out, and they're going to see this vision all the way through. And those are the ones that in the future they look at and go, I can't even believe they stuck around for so long and cared about it for so long. But I think somewhere in the middle you find balance, and so I've just accepted the timeline that we're in, and I've committed to the point in which I can't. I put it like sweat equity. When you put time into a space and you put so much into it, you almost can't go back anymore. And so, for me, I believe in development of space. I believe the importance where VeVe lies within it. And so, I just accept the fact that it's going to be a bumpy road, and over time and over the next foreseeable future, it will be paved out. It's going to take time, but it will. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. And to kind of think about, you said timeline, and as well as someone else was mentioning something on the lines of that, is when I think about that too, I think about other things that are coming down like a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later. Because another thing too is like we're gonna have like obviously way more Batmans, right? We're gonna have way more, Harley Quinns, Jokers, and like the hopefully we'll get Pokemon, and we'll have like 10 different Charizards. Like, what does that look like for somebody new, or a collector that decides like, hey, I'm gonna get serious about VeVe and collect? How do they know? Like, what systems are going to be built in this community that somebody could say, okay, like I got this, series, whatever Blastoise, or Joker, Harley Quinn, whatever. Like, how does that work? You know what I'm saying? So like, what are the systems that are going to be built and innovating the ways we push forward and push the boundaries of what it is to collect digital collectibles? And the first iteration may not be correct or right, or the final final draft or final version, but that's my thoughts. Like, is like thinking 5, 10 years from now, what does that look like? What does that look like for the new 20-year-old person or whatever getting to the space and trying to figure out and make sense of it all? Like, what system and platform are they going to use? And I already see like the NFT space on OpenSea. Like, people are like creating these tools and resources already, and I kind of hope the same that goes for VeVe. And it's up to the community obviously to decide and figure things out. But I think innovation is good, and the overall like timeline, and 5, 10 years later down the road for somebody else to come up underneath us and figure things out, and not have to just guess. So that's my thoughts on the whole timeline.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you now, brother.
Okay, sorry, I was in the subway, so I just connection issues were crazy. But I just, first of all, thanks for bringing me up, and it's great to see all the big influencers in the space, and looks like a really productive and healthy discussion so far. So I just wanted to echo some sentiments that I heard earlier. And essentially, I wanted to reiterate the importance of the community deciding the market, not the influencers informing what the market should be. But that being said, it is, does take two to tango. And as much as the community will respond and do their own thing, they're also influenced by people in the community. And, we see a perfect examples like Logan Paul and, the first edition Shadowless Charizard as an example that went to, crazy amounts of money in a rapid amount of time. But I just wanted to talk about also the importance of having like professional discourse as well, because we're all in this together in this new and adaptive space, and we're pioneering it. And the more that we act in unison, or the more that we provide opportunities to have really healthy discord, where we can disagree on certain items and move this space forward at a more rapid rate, I think is really important. But I do think that as much as we are a big community within VeVe, it's an exceptionally small community in the context of the world and in context to NFTs. And so it's delicate as well. And with it being delicate, I think it's important to, really be able to, again, talk about why we all think this stuff is important, talk about why, NFTs are going to be immortalized and why they're going to stand the test of time. And to, also inform other people why we think, parallels that we've drawn from collecting principles like first appearances in comic books, in cards, in all these different things that have kind of stood the test of time from a physical collecting realm. Could we draw some parallels? Not saying that we're going to be able to accurately predict the NFT space to a certain degree, but what parallels can we draw from the different expertise or from different experiences where it can help inform the community? Now, all that I see as a YouTuber and what we want to do is offer perspective so that you can take that into your unique perspective and then draw your own conclusions and insights. Not to say that, oh, well, Chad thinks this, so therefore I think it. No, this is my interpretation of what's happening. This is not a fact. This is not something that I believe could happen. This is just my interpretation. Like, for instance, when I talk about a first appearance of Batman, and it's the first ever DC licensed NFT, and it's VeVe's first thing, like, this could be exceptionally important to me, but somebody else may not give two fucks about that, and that's totally fine. But there might be a lot of people that think like me as well. And so I think that's just an important piece here, is that, like, the community will decide, and we're here to give our insights. And I hope that you can see and appreciate the people that are attempting to pioneer this space, just despite how it may look, I guess, from the surface, is to appreciate that people are willing to step forward and really offer their insights. And I think that's critical, because without people kind of leading this space, potentially it wouldn't have the same hype that it has now. Potentially there wouldn't be as many people that got into this space, right? I know lots of people that have watched my YouTube videos, other YouTube videos, and be like, hey, because of your video, I joined and I bought a TOD or I bought a NFT, and I really enjoy this space. So I think, there's just something to be appreciated. And my role specifically, I work at Sick Kids, which is a hospital in Toronto. And my role is around community engagement. And so all we try to do is, to amplify pediatric pain management across the country for people with, chronic conditions. And one of the best ways to do this is to have harmonization across all the different partners and networks. And so I would just echo the same sentiments in this space, is that, we're all so new. We all need, encouragement sometimes, and sometimes when the FUD is high, it's even that more difficult to go out and produce content when people are saying, hey, like, you screwed me, or VeVe's not going to the moon. It's like, well, listen, like, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do. But, I just want to share that with everybody, because I think there's, these things that people think like, hey, they're just trying to pump their bags. And it's like, it's not as if I've invested $400,000 to make 2 million and then I'm just going to exit the project. Like, I mean, I had a little money invested. Most of us are here because we love it. We have a passion for it. And we want to see what it could do long term. This is not a quick rich or a get rich scheme. If that was the case, I wouldn't be working at my 9-to-5 job right now and on the side of a subway, trying to talk to everybody. So a few thoughts there. And I know I rambled on a lot, but thanks a lot for having me up, guys.
Yeah, that was right on the spot, man. Thanks for coming up and sharing that.
Yeah, and to his point, like, we're all influencers to a certain degree. Like, everybody we talk to, we're gonna influence them or not. Like, I see a lot of people in the crowd that are knowledgeable, and they probably taught their family and friends, and to them, you're their influencer. Now, whether they listen to you, that's their decision. Um, we know more because we're in the space every day. So, I mean, that's why they would see us as influencers. But at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own decisions, and things are gonna grow naturally or they're not. I make my don't. So I watch a lot of YouTubers too, like, and I take what I can from whoever I need to at that time, and then I make it mine, and then I make my own decisions on what to buy, when to buy it, what mint to buy, what collectible. Like, I rarely ask people what to buy unless I'm like want a second opinion from a peer that I respect. But other than that, I make my own decisions, and I don't get upset about new ideas being introduced. I just take it and see how I feel about it, and if I don't like it, I leave it alone.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I think the one thing that I love about people that create content like yourselves is that, I get an ability to have an insight on different perspective. You may present an idea that I didn't think about before, or a different value proposition that didn't make sense to me before. And there's so many people in this space right now. You've got people like Prop, VeVe Magic, Milan, the Comic Way, Block, Tails, NFT Pirates, you got the GRAIL, you name it. Like, there's so many people in the space that I've learned from, and I've taken different ideas and different perspectives, and I've applied into my own work, and I've navigated through that lens so that I can develop and grow. You know, if you're investing purely based off what someone says, I think you're missing the point. The point is to grow, it's to develop. It's not to just take a word for what it is, but it's to take the idea and see if it applies and resonates with you. And so I just think it's such a subtle concept, because you know, not everyone fully grasps that, and that's why I think that people play that blame game. It's like, well, you said this, so I took it and it didn't go right. Well, but that's not the case. I'm merely sharing with you perspective, and if that perspective resonates, then hopefully you're able to use that information and take it forward. And if it doesn't resonate, it doesn't. So that's always been the way in which I digest content, I digest ideas. And that's why I appreciate all the content creators, all the people that host spaces, all the people that share different perspectives on Twitter, or now we're starting to see people break out into other social platforms like what's it called? I can't remember off the top of my mind. I don't use it very often. Yeah, Voltaholics. No, it's a social platform. I should know. TikTok. There we go. I've seen TikToks and stuff presented now. People are starting to create TikToks and new content around that, and I think, you know, look, it's exciting, you know, and I think anyone who does it for free, just out of passion, I think we should respect, because, you know, we're just doing this to help progress the industry. I think if you host spaces, if you talk on YouTube, and if you do these things to progress the industry and to help educate, I think there's surely nothing negative that can be taken from that. Like, it's just that's my point of view, and I appreciate all of you on this stage. I mean, I've learned a lot from all of you, and I will continue to. Because you know, you provide valuable insight, and I would not be in the position I am within my collection if it wasn't for a lot of these content creators. I just wouldn't be there. I know I wouldn't. 100%. You know, if I went on this on a selfish intent and just closed my perspective to only my own ideas, I'm telling you, I would have nowhere near got to where I'm at now. So
Yeah, and any one of us have the power to step up and create something. Like, you know, who am I? Who is NFT Pirates? Who is KyleWillson? We all just started a channel one day, and you know, people decided to watch because, you know, we just loved what we were doing. And, you know, I see Props and Block down there. They have the Omikongs. You know, any one of us can create something, and if people want to be a part of it, they're going to join. If not, they're not. So it's just, you know, empower yourself, and, you know, and respect other people who are taking it upon themselves to, you know, make a name for themselves, to just take a chance. You know, this metaverse, these NFTs, they're creating a lot of opportunities for people. There's legends being created right now in this space, and any one of us can step up and become whoever we want to be, especially in the metaverse. You know, even more so in the metaverse. But right now is the time to take a chance. You know, so just try to be respectful for the people trying to create something, but, you know, you can also criticize it, but there's respectful ways of doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Gail. And I think you got a big point there. It's like you can, you know, everybody's an influencer to a degree, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, content creator. And, you know, I know a lot of people in the spaces right now. Like, I'm scrolling down, I see everybody. I know, like, a lot of people, and so, you know, I get it. So, you know, I think everybody has that level that they don't realize. You know, it's easy to point fingers or blame, but yeah, there's a right way to do it for sure. But do we have any other, maybe female perspectives or people that want to come up? We got a lot of dudes up here. I don't I
we
don't
should
know if
get
there's
VeVe
anybody
Magic
that
up there. I'd love to get her perspective. I've always enjoyed having conversation with her. She's
VeVe Magic.
very logical. And maybe Silicone Secure, I
Cool.
see him down there as well. Maybe get Silicone up here as well, man. I've learned so much from him, like absolute legend of space. I'd love to see him come up, and Prop and Block, man. Come up, man. Let's come have a chat. Like, I'd love to hear from you both.
Do you believe in magic?
Hey, VeVe Magic, how are you?
Hey guys, sorry, I was putting my daughter to nap time. I am so thankful to you guys for opening up this space, because you've like recentered me, refocused me. I'm like very energy driven, and I just everything in the last couple of days has just been sort of like painful to my soul. Like it just doesn't feel good to sit in a space and hear people kind of go after each other. Like I'm all for having politeful disagreements. Like that helps all of us grow. But it was just toxic, and I also don't like. I fear for people that are coming into these spaces that are new to VeVe and wanting to learn about VeVe. I mean, is this, is negative conversation what we want them to hear? I don't think so. I don't think that's helpful to the cause. And I love having polite disagreements with people, but ultimately, like, I think it's important to show respect, and I think you guys are doing a good job of showing multiple sides of the coin. I don't like also to put words in people's mouths when you don't know what intent was. So I think that's sort of unfair. You can talk about things a little bit, but don't assume where somebody was coming from or what their angle was. I just don't think that's appropriate or right. So yeah, I have no problem talking about the conversation that's been going on the past couple of days. I think it's kind of exhausted at this point, and they're all going to get up and talk about it themselves tomorrow. My only hope is if any of those guys are in here listening right now, I haven't really looked, but I would just plead that you please keep it productive and kind and respectful. And it's okay to view your own sides and voice that, but if you could just do it in a respectful manner and represent the community in a positive light, I personally would really appreciate it, because it's been hard for me to hear some of the stuff that's going on. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, how you respond to things, that's a reflection on who you are on the inside. And a lot of us, we're not perfect. We need personal development. Everybody's still working on themselves. We've all come from different backgrounds and stuff. And it's, I try not to hold anybody, like I try to see things from, I don't know, I just try to see, I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say. I mean, people respond differently to different things, and I get it. And, but they also can be conscious, enough not to be rude or something, to be respectful. Yeah.
Yeah, like Prof was saying earlier, he was saying, y'all need to take a walk, and he was saying it like cool down, like, and I think that was great advice. Like, for sure, come and have your own opinions and beliefs and views on what's happening and what's been brought to the community. But that's the whole point is let it soak in, think about it, don't just jump to a conclusion. Maybe just let the whole thing soak in, and then organize your words in a way that's going to come through in a good way to the community and put yourself in a good light. And yeah, but everyone does make mistakes, and everyone does sometimes say things the wrong way. We're all human. So I'm not trying to bash anybody that has had a very strong opinion. I'm not trying to say that at all. I just, going forward, I would like to see it be much more productive and respectful. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. I think, yeah, the human side goes both ways, right? It's like we can maybe wake up on the wrong side of the bed one day and say something silly and be like, "Oh man, I definitely messed up." But that then the other side of it is, realizing there's another human being on the other side too, and we all have, beating hearts the same, and it's important to remember the human element of it for sure. And I don't know, I just love the back I guess a year ago when there's a lot of community initiatives and seeing how like incredible the community was and just kind of keeping that going. I think that's important for the continued growth and of the community is just keeping things fun and keeping these like community initiatives. Like I remember last year there was like no giveaways, and now there's giveaways like everywhere, which is super exciting. Like people just giving back to each other. I think that's like so to me that's really impressive. Like I get impressed upon by seeing the community give away their NFTs, and so that shows me like the fun side of it, and then people are truly giving back, and I think that it's important to remember like there's the human side of all of this, and I think that's what has brought us together is these collectibles, but also the connections that we make, and to remember like you know we as a community have to come together and just remember that side of it, I guess.
Yeah, before I lose, sorry, Ryan, one real quick, before I lose the thought, yeah, I mean, the community is one of the most special aspects of this project. And the people in these spaces, the content creators, the people who hold spaces, the Vaultaholics on Instagram, we are basically the core. We're kind of the core that's holding this community together. And like Baby Magic said, if somebody comes into a space where people are just berating or attacking or assuming, like that's not the energy that we want to keep going. We can decide how the VeVe community is going to be going forward. Like we're not only the pioneers of NFTs and stuff, but we're the pioneers of the what's the word I'm looking for? The
The culture.
code. Thank you, Sam. The culture. We are creating the culture, and we can decide what this is going to be. This could be, you know, you know what I'm saying. I'm done.
Families
Yeah.
have disagreements, but let's work through those disagreements and in a productive way and move forward together, sort it out, and move forward together.
I agree with all of this, and I also want to say it goes the other way as well, in that I think those who come onto a big platform with a big idea in the future might be more responsible with the optics of the way they present it, because clearly the optics of the way this has been presented has, gotten a negative response, a big enough negative response so that we've been talking about it now for a few days. I think that's instructive. And although I also agree that everything should be presented in a constructive and professional way, sure, that's our desires, but that's how we feel. And there are other people in the community that are going to be more emotional about their vested interest in VeVe, financially or otherwise, and will have their reactions as well. And if I see a large enough chorus of a negative reaction, do I wish it was less intense and maybe more constructive? Sure, but it's also super instructive. Why are these reactions happening? I think a good small example of this is a few days ago, someone opened a room with a title. I won't even say what the title was because I don't think this conversation wants to go in that direction. But the title was highly irresponsible, and we were able to put out that fire fairly quickly. And we did it from opening up a new room, and slowly that room closed down. And I think the lesson learned for that person moving forward is language and optics is important in this community, especially because it's so tight knit and so small relatively, that moving forward, when people present new ideas and new things, it will be with the knowledge that unless the language is responsible and also reflects the organic way the market moves, I still believe, it will get a reaction. And if that reaction is too negative, I may wish it wasn't that negative, but we're all human beings, and I think these things are natural. These conversations are important, but these things are also natural. And this will happen over and over again. For those of us who are involved in any kind of metaverse platform, especially one that already has much more advanced infrastructure than VeVe, I can tell you every single aspect that comes up, even from the dev team, whether it's a new development from the dev team in the game, in the platform, or a new idea, you will always have some percentage of the community that responds in a way that where it's like, oh wow, I wish it wasn't so negative. But the fact is, the more we examine why those negative reactions are happening, the more the presentation of new ideas begins to be better. Period. It's just that simple. And I think there were ways that this presentation was presented of this new idea in the last few days that I think could have been better.
Silicon man, you got something to say? You've been I know you've been trying to get something in there for a second, and then Asher Annie after Silicon if you want to go to.
Yeah, hey guys, good to be back up or be up here. Thanks for bringing me up. Yeah, I mean, I think that, if we kind of zoom out a little bit, my take is that, the market's had some pullback, right? People are frustrated. Crypto's had some challenges. We've seen this as well before with other, people being upset about other things and there being like a visceral response from the community. I think, this is just the noise of the day, so to speak. And I think at the end of the day, as Gail mentioned, other people mentioned up here, we own the community, we determine our culture, who we are being, we police ourselves. I think that's really important because like when things get negative, I pull out. Like I don't even want to participate when people are being negative, because this is a hard enough space, right? Like we have to keep ourselves positive. NFTs it's a groundbreaking new space that we're in. We're educating the world about what NFTs are, what the possibilities are, how this is a new asset class. And at the end of the day, if you're not with me, you're against me. That's kind of how I see it, right? And I get productive talk is good, and people are upset about things, but at the end of the day, I think that's because people are frustrated, right? People are frustrated because things aren't moving as fast as they want them to. They had different expectations. Maybe they saw that their portfolios doubled or tripled or quadrupled, and then they saw they fell in half, right, or whatever the case is. And I think that realistic expectations are important. Like, yes, we all want our assets to improve in value. At the same time, we have to be responsible community members and be productive and support those people that are trying to make a difference. And I really do think that comics and crypto has really good intentions. And I think it's the intentions to support the community. Now I get that there's other perspectives like, oh, it's all about making money and all that other stuff. I mean, same with me. People think, oh, you're just, you pump Todd or something, or it's like, no, it's like, you do whatever you want to do, right? I'm not telling people what to do. I don't try, I just tell people what I do. You make your own thing. You take my advice for whatever I'm just being a participant in the community, just like everybody else, right? So I think that, I think that people just need to, realize if they're frustrated. Like, I think the advice I heard earlier was go take a walk. Yeah, go take a walk. Go check out for a week or two. Go do something else, because next week it'll be something else, right?
Yeah, one thing I will say, Silicone, is if I hadn't have had conversations with you, I would never have changed the way in which I have within NFTs, full stop. I mean, you presented ideas to me early on that, through spaces and conversations that have really helped shape the way in which I perceive VeVe and the way in which I invest and navigate. So anyone that says that you're out here with the intention to simply pump a collectible is actually missing the point, because you provide so much more as a community than that. And I think anyone who's spoken to you for longer than half a second can see that. So, well, it's true. I think it's important that that's recognised, because, I've been in a lot of conversations with you over, the past, 6 months, and each one has always opened up doors to new constructive conversation and new ideas and new ways to look at things. And so, the reason you appreciate Todd is because it is an incredible piece, and I think that's just part and parcel. The first ever is the first ever, and I can see it, and I think a lot of the community can as well, man. So, I just wanted to let you know that I like about it. Yeah. For anyone that says anything negative about you, bro, like, you've given a lot of positive out as well. So,
legend, bro, legend right here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys. No, thank you, and thanks for Sam for the kind words. And that's really what it is. Like, I care about the community. I love you guys, right? It really is love. That's where it comes from. Because you guys are in it with me, right? We're part. We are it. Without the community, what is VeVe? Nothing, right? VeVe is nothing without us. And that's an important thing to think about. Like if we're not buying NFTs or selling NFTs or holding NFTs, then VeVe is just software and on the blockchain, right? So anyway, and shout out to you, Sam, as well, because I see what you're doing in the community and how you're making a difference and being positive. And same for everyone up here, right? In their own ways. VeVe Magics, I saw your interview with NFT Norway and NFT Pirates for always hosting me whenever I feel like chatting. So yeah, love all you guys. Kyle, you have your channel as well, and the GRAIL.
I hope your cock's hard.
we get to put GRAIL and I play.
Let me suck your cock.
He seems to be winning recently.
Kyle, get Astro off the stage, Kyle.
Bro,
Oh, bro, hey, I've got to tell you something. Right. So I had someone send me a message, right, of this meme that's been made up about me. So apparently, it literally across the top of the head goes, something about me being too positive and then sucking the dick of VeVe. I mean, it's just, yeah, mate, it's so funny because I'm like, I looked at it, I'm like, okay, fair enough. I mean, the fact that someone's actually gone into Photoshop and started editing that shit, man, like, oh, bro, it actually made me laugh. I thought it was so funny, but yeah.
Was that the
Also
guy that
that
sent it to you that was just up on stage?
I literally have no idea, honestly. Like, I literally just blocked them. Like, I just thought it was so funny because I looked at it, I'm like, who's done that? You imagine what they've done in their room. They've got their laptop out, they've got the picture, they started to write it down, and
that
like,
trolling was
mate, it's just
also that
hilarious.
trolling was also so quaint because of the British accent, you know.
it was like the most gentle trolling I've ever heard, and it was like sniping as well. So like waited for a long time just to say that.
He took his moment, bro. He took his moment.
He said, "Today's the day. I'm gonna get him good."
Yeah,
It was
but
almost polite.
I was like, this is it.
1 second of fame for sure. That
Like right now, that dude is making a sandwich, nodding to himself, feeling like he really did this today.
yeah.
I'm dying
Hey, you know
over
what?
here.
You know what? It's all good. There's always gonna be someone in the crowd. You look at the best comedians out there. There's always a heckler out there, and it's all good, you know, because you know, that's the way the world is. And
And that's
I love you all.
I was just gonna hop into the mix here and just also just say, you know, the very first person I started following in this space was Sam, and I saw the positivity that he was sharing throughout the community, and I was like, man, I love the way this guy thinks. I love his responses to the negativity, the positivity. Like he was just setting an example of how I kind of wanted to present my content in a way, I guess. And then I started following NFT Pirates. I started following the GRAIL. VeVe Magic got involved. I saw her featured on a YouTube video and actually like took it and put it into a TikTok I made. But like, there's so many of these cool content creators, right, that are offering perspectives on this space where just like I'm echoing what has been said already, but like, and that is to give you your own perspective on what to do next, right? It's not this is the answer, it's this is my perspective and what I'm doing, and here's how you can proceed forward with now knowing this. And the other thing I would say too is like, and this is just I guess like a personal thing that I do just in my life and in real life, in my personal life, on VeVe, you know, in digital spaces, whatever it may be, is like a kind word always turns away anger. And so if somebody does like attack me or they want to kind of tear me down or make me feel small, you know, to just kind of take it with a grain of salt, because on one end it is frustrating in a way, like you wonder why is somebody doing this to me? But at the same time, if we have no idea what that other person just went through and why they might be using VeVe or somebody they don't like as an outlet to just get rid of that frustration. So like a kind word turns away anger is just like responding with, yeah, I appreciate your perspective, and then kind of just moving on. Like that's one of the strategies that I kind of use, just because it is true. Like as you bring more value to people and more people start to listen to you, there will be just people who want to go against you just for the sake of going against you. And so using that strategy in the future is good. The other thing that I just wanted to add too is like everybody's role is important. It doesn't matter if you have 10,000 followers or 50 followers, like everybody is so important in this space. And like, just like the CEO's role is just as important as the janitor's role. Like you have to respect everybody for who they are, their perspective and where they come from, and value them no matter who they are. And the more and more you adopt kind of that mindset in your life, you know, doing things for somebody that they might not be able to do anything in return and just doing it because you want to help, like that's such a powerful way to impact people's lives and just to grow this community in a really fruitful way. And so I just wanted to add that into the mix of what everybody was saying.
Mate, great words, by the way. I just want to let you know I've got to drop off, and I actually appreciate what you said, Ryan. You know, the fact that, you know, I always think that a positive perception. Look, one of my favorite quotes is that, you know, I would rather be an optimist and be wrong than a pessimist and be right. You know, in the end of the day, you know, I see optimism within the space because I believe that there's something to be optimistic about. And I think if we share the reality of where we're going, then I think we can all win in this space. And you know, I'm not about to go and share negative words because it goes against the very characters and the very beliefs in which I believe in. So I'm not just going to do things because people tell me I should. I'm going to act in my own way because that's what I believe, and I'm not going to allow anyone to change my internal system. I can tell you that, because that is something you protect. That's not something I change. So, but yeah. Anyway, I'm going to have off, but Kyle, great space, been great chatting to everyone. Really good energy, man, and just keep up the good work. Catch you, everyone.
Take care, Sam.
Thanks for being on.
See you, Sam.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a brief history about, you know, some of the content creators up here, like just like the chain of reaction of how this thing kind of happened. So I don't know if you guys know, but Johnny Dunn, he was like commenting on Gary Vee's videos like way back in the day, right? And because he did that, Cavell Anderson found out about Ecomi. And so then I remember watching KyleWillson and Cavell do their first like joint live stream. I remember watching that. That was like before I even started the channel. And you know, that was like, that was motivating to me. And I was like, hey, I think I can do that. This is fun. I like VeVe and I think I can make a channel. So lo and behold, I started a channel. And then fast forward like maybe a month, the NFT Pirates invited me on their channel. Now, I never used to show my face on screen, but you know, I decided, you know, let me show my face, man. It's the first appearance of the NFT Pirates. They were doing their thing. You know, they were coming out with awesome content, a new different way to look at these NFTs. So I came on screen and I threw on the glasses, and that's how you know me now. I wear the glasses in every video now, and I show my face more often. And then later on, you know, Sam Wilson, he had a YouTube channel as well, but then he kind of slowed down. So I introduced him to Twitter. And if I never introduced him to Twitter, Sam would probably not even, or Sam Ellis, I said Sam Wilson. Sam Ellis probably never would have been on Twitter if I didn't introduce him to Twitter. So I said all that to say that you just never know the 6 degrees of separation. You don't know who, you know, we're going to reach. And like, you never know who's going to come into the community and just, you know, blow it out of the water. In comics and crypto, you know, they came on because they said they seen NFT Pirates talk about first appearances. So you just don't know the ripple effects of who you're gonna reach. So let's just, you know, try not to tear down people when they like, you know, come up with something, you know, whether it's to help or not, you know, you just never know who's gonna reach who. So yeah.
Great point, Scale. I mean, and it's just amazing because that's exactly the sentiments that I wanted to share as well. So, you know, as an example, like early on, when I only had like 38 subscribers, it was KyleWillson that called me out too in a YouTube video, and he's like, "Oh, NFT Pirates in the house," and those little subtle things actually give you the encouragement to like move forward. If I didn't get that, and if I was just ignored, I don't know if I would have made another video because it was so early on in that space. And so I think, you know, those are just so powerful, and some of the stuff that you're saying and all the ripple effects. And, you know, if I look at like even Silicon and VeVe Magic, right? Like, you know, Silicon and I were talking, and then he came on, and then it was like my most popular video ever everywhere. And everyone's like, "Oh, Chad, your channel's amazing." I'm like, "No, Silicon's amazing." And then Silicon's like, "Well, you know who was amazing too is VeVe Magic." And then she comes on, and now, and then there's another viral video, right? And it's just so interesting because, you know, how many unforeseen superstars are hiding in this chat right now, or in the VeVe community, that just haven't had their voices be heard. You know, how many whales, how many experts, how many people with extreme knowledge about different fandoms are you know, just sitting in here. And I think the common theme is ensuring that we have a space that's encouraging, optimistic, and positive.
NFT
Because if
Pirate,
not,
just so you know, bud, you're so much in the blockchain, I can barely make out what you're saying. Can you try holding the phone a little closer?
If you
Yeah,
put on
same.
your subtitles, it helps a lot. That's what's getting me through it.
oh yeah, sorry guys. Can you hear me better now or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to say that the common theme that I've noticed is just, you know, a very powerful and, you know, positive and optimistic space is key for getting new people to feel as though they have the, you know, ability to share their voice. And that seems to be the common theme that I'm seeing here, is that all these little subtle encouragements, you know, a place where people don't feel attacked, is where I think, you know, you're going to have more blossoming, so to speak, and more people willing to share their perspective, and that's just going to help, create more channels, create more voices, and all, push our bags up. So that's pretty much, I think, what I wanted to kind of reiterate what the Gail said, but all those little subtle encouragements.
And what kind of community do you want to live in, right? Do you want a community that's like throwing crap at each other every day? Or do you want to live in a community where we can have constructive conversations and have civilized discussions, right?
It's so funny because my total energy is so refocused and like I did it a 180 because it's like I was listening earlier and the conversation as I was listening to everything going on, I'm like, this is exactly why I don't have a YouTube channel. This is exactly why I'm not out there more, is because this stuff is so toxic. I don't want to be in a space like that. I don't want to have people coming after me every day. I just can't handle that kind of energy. I personally I can't let things roll off my back like that. And so hearing all that, I was just like crawling into a hole. And then now that this conversation is going on, it makes me feel so much better. Especially I like the background that you guys are giving because I don't know like the origin stories of some of you guys. And so I really like hearing how we've all, believe it or not, have helped each other grow or start or become where we are in this space. And there's so many other people out there, like Chad was saying, that there's so many other gems out there that we need to find. And conversations like these are going to make them feel comfortable coming out of their shell and willing to share some probably really amazing knowledge that we need.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's always that network effect, and there's always that, level of, like Miguel said earlier, you never know who's going to come into the space and what kind of, impact you might have on people. So, Akil, man, what's going on? I see you're here. Go ahead, man. Take the stage.
Well, thank you all. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are in the world. I was actually coming up here just to let you guys know it's not necessarily your phones that you're stuck in the blockchain. It's Twitter. Twitter Spaces has actually been glitching, so that the listeners can hear you perfectly. But while you're actually a speaker, it's just screwing up. So, just remember that as you're going through this process, is like sometimes it's not you, it's Twitter. That's all I really had to come say. Otherwise, I just love hearing about VeVe and Omi collections overall.
Hey, Kill, now that you're on stage, great job with that interview with Reese, by the way. That was very productive, straight to the point, very informative. So good job with that.
I appreciate that. Some people might call me an asshole, but the truth of the matter is I'm legally trained, and so like just getting to the point that's always my mission. It saves us all a lot of time, and sometimes it saves a client a lot of money. So let's just get to the point and get after it, right?
Yeah, no doubt. It was good. It was a good video as well. I agree.
I think the best part of that interview was just to finally know, like, put some things to rest, like, hey, we're looking at a 12-month period, because everything I believe in, it needs to be in the year cycle, or at least in the quarters, so we at least have a time frame. I don't like dates. Like when people are like, oh, when are we getting this? It's like, hey, is this going to be out in the next 3 to 5 months? If they can answer yes, then I know to expect something late time, 5 months. After 5 months, then you can start going, okay, guys, where's this at? But also very transparent when they were talking about, hey, we should have had Bitmart last year, but we just got caught up on so many other things that we never got it. And I was like, I appreciate the transparency and honesty.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of us like expected Bitmart and more exchanges last year, and sometimes we definitely need to hear just like a little bit like that. I know if we get too much information, I know how we can be. With too much information, people are, they get a little, stir crazy and want things like yesterday. So, yeah, but it is refreshing to hear like them say like a little update like that. Like, okay, like that makes sense. Like I get it. So yeah, there's definitely that for them. It's definitely probably a hard balance to kind of, and I think they've learned that too this past year. It's like how much information can they release, or would they want to now? Because sometimes the community can get a little, we can get a little too excited on the deadlines and really hold them to it. So yeah, I wouldn't want to work for I wouldn't want to be in Dan and David's shoes, that's for sure. I'm glad that they're the ones running the company and not me. So
And Dan, and I think David Yu is, it's odd. David Yu is running 4 to 5 companies right now, maybe 6.
yeah, that's insane. Now I know you guys talk about promo codes. Do you know like when do you think they'll come out with that? Is there like a speculation that you would say uh on promo codes? Because I'm very interested in that. And even people in chat, I'm actually streaming this on YouTube, and I saw somebody mention that last year David talked about the physical stuff and the physical lines. I'm really interested in that because there's just so many like things that can be done. Like it's like an infinite amount of possibilities when you start merging, physical and digital together.
So I think the physicals already started to happen. I mean, we've already had a couple of releases. I can't remember the name of the piece, but the figure from DesignerCon. It's got it's like Eve or something with the
Eve,
snake
yep.
background. Yeah,
We just ordered our physicals.
that's what's up. So yeah, so we've already started that one. Now there's going to be physical to NFT, which is actually happening with DC, but DC is doing it through, I believe, Immutable X still. So like it's going to be something that lives there. So I think in the long run, I think we may see something sooner than later. And I think another thing to just point out is there has been zero, like, as of 20 as of the start of 2021, there was really no marketing dollars spent on the VeVe Ecomi universe. And so this might be, those promo codes might be coming as part of their marketing campaign as well. So I think that's another opportunity to see some growth, is because people are going to be able to, plug in these codes and potentially get drops. And we all know that, one of the biggest frustrations is that the master collector program needs to happen, because the tiered drops will help people who are new on the app not feel like they're just getting gypped by bots all the time. I think that's a big issue overall, is that people really want to feel as though they're active in this community, active in the app, active in the OMI use, but yet they feel like, though, I'm not getting a drop. It must be bots. And obviously there are some bots, but the level in which 2.5 million people on an app that was really, we were supposed to be at 1 million this year. We're at 2.5, so it's tough to get anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely love the marketing that they could do behind it and the promo codes. And I saw Tristan Eden even before I want to say I can't remember if it was before he dropped his NFT on VeVe or after, but he did like the Gemma whole NFT where you had to go on like a scavenger hunt and you go find it. I don't know. I think there's like so much potential with promo codes. They could go the traditional route, like what we've seen with what's happening with McDonald's or Burger King, like rip this little sticker off and put a promo code in, you get an NFT or whatever, right? And so for me, that's like super exciting on both like VeVe side, like what the possibilities are for the collectibles, but also on the OMI side, what does that mean for our OMI tokens? So I think that like opens up the door for, to please both crowds. And if you're on both aisles, I think you're going to be, in my opinion, that's super exciting.
I'm still waiting for them to come out with the hard wallets they're going to have like in retail stores, right? Weren't they going to have a hard wallet in retail store that was going to have a free NFT on it? So I don't know if that's still, does anyone know if that's still happening?
I was just going to mention real quick, thanks for having me up here, Kyle, and just talking with everybody. I really appreciate all of you, and I'm looking forward to continuing the journey. Thanks for having me here.
For sure. Silicon, yeah. So yeah, I made a video on that like a while ago. I'm not sure if sorry, I'm in the car. I'm not sure if they're gonna continue that. I think they might, because they also had like a credit card they wanted to roll out, but things changed. But I think that's still a possibility. Like they wanted to put them in Best Buy stores and stuff like that, and the actual wallet would have been a collectible itself too. So it might still be part of their physical rollout in terms of items that they're going to start selling. So I guess we'll just have to wait.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the pandemic affected supply chain challenges, which is why I think one of the reasons why the hard wallet was out of stock for so long.
I mean, let's just be very clear. There have been no chips anywhere in this world. I mean, car manufacturers desperate for them. Video gamers like begging for them. If you are building your own like PC unit, like you couldn't find anything. I mean, people were taking chips out of like freaking vacuum cleaners to see if they could use them in their PCs.
Yeah, I was actually in the market for a GPU when that happened, and actually right before the pandemic, I bought a lot of components for my PC, and they were actually on sale. And then as soon like post pandemic, like there was like massive shortages, and I was like looking, I was remember checking stock and being like, this is insane. Like this stuff was on sale like last year for half the price, and this year it's like they can barely keep it in stock, and it's like full retail price. And anyways, I had to like buy a super expensive GPU because that was like the only thing they had in stock, unfortunately. And I didn't even want it, but I mean, I have it now. But yeah, that was pretty difficult times. And yeah, it's not easy in tech right now.
Yeah, you're right, Keel, about the automotive space. I mean, I think, in dealer lots, you go drive by dealer lots nowadays and they'll have maybe like 10, 12 new cars, at least here in the Bay Area. It's insane.
Now, have you guys looked into like hollow cubes and like I think David, you actually spoke about that one time. I'm interested if anybody's checked out those and kind of knows what those are. But just to kind of give you an idea, they are essentially like hologram type cubes. They're like those, you know, uh, I guess you'd put them on display and you can display like your NFT in like 3D essentially, or like a hologram, for instance. Has anybody heard of those by chance?
I feel like I just saw a video posted somewhere on Twitter about somebody having one displayed like that, and I looked at it and was like, "What is that?" It was a VeVe NFT, but I just thought they did something really cool, like technically out of my realm, but it sounds exactly like what you're describing.
Yeah, yeah. So I think HoloCube, at least there was a project that I could have minted, and what they did is they had this, yeah, like a cube. It's like a glass cube or whatever it's made out of, a polymer or whatever, and you could sync your NFT to it, and then it would display like this 3D like uh, hologram of your NFT in this cube, and you could like display it in the shelf. So, anyways, I didn't know if anybody had seen those before. I remember like David, you mentioning that a while back, and I'm curious to see like if they have plans to still do something like that. And then Alcon mentioning like you could take they how he envisions BB and the taking the experience with you. So those are the types of things that I'm kind of thinking for the future of VeVe.
Yeah, early on, David, you had mentioned they were exploring LiDAR technology and all kinds of other technologies for the NFTs, and they were kind of tracking them, even like digital frames and other things. So I know he's mentioned in the past, but we haven't really heard much um, at all from VeVe. But yeah, I'd be curious to see if anyone actually has done that with VeVe NFTs.
Yeah, I remember Reese talking about like what if your Batman can run off a desk and do stuff, or like if you put him next to Joker, they start to battle. Like we haven't even seen anything close to that besides the Ghost Trap and Slimer. So that's how early we are. There's so much that we don't even know that's coming. Not to mention what they already mentioned that we still haven't seen. So just buckle up.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm curious to what they'll do this year. Like obviously the promo codes, like they wouldn't have just released that just because, obviously they have some sort of like bigger plan, behind this and bigger rollout in my opinion, because it seems like when they do something, they do it big, they don't just do a little bit of it, they do a lot of it. And so that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that, and even next year, what are they going to do next year? So, um, I'm very curious. Obviously, they're outsourcing a lot of talent right now, so I wonder what that looks like as far as internal, like what they'll do and who they'll hire internally.
Yeah, they had mentioned that they were going to build their own studio, right? That they were using third-party studios and contractors. They've always said that this is for the masses. So if you think if it's for the masses, and that means that they have to reach people, mainstream people, other ways than just so retail does make sense, right? If they're reaching out to the masses, or at least some kind of online retail outlet that's popular, which could explain the promo codes.
Yeah, and we still obviously they have still yet to do the land drop, which will obviously I wonder what that looks like, and especially for like landowners, like what are the utilities there for that? And like, are we going to be able to actually take the VeVeverse with us? Because in the earliest days, like I remember Reese talked about like what it possibly could look like, and I did a lot of research into it and like looked into Niantic and a long time ago last year, and a lot of it was like the AR cloud, and that's what Reese was kind of like hinting at is like the AR cloud and what basically what Niantic's doing, and they've launched their light chip this past year, and so I kind of see that being a big potential of what possibly the VeVeverse could be, but I'm curious to what it will end up being and what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean the VeVeverse, man. It's one thing to like, jump inside your phone or your computer and hop into the VeVeverse, but is anybody thinking about like the VeVeverse coming into the real world? Like you said, Pokemon Go, like maybe Chicago is a thing, augmented reality layered over the real world. I think that would be even huger than the metaverse. Yeah, it's crazy.
I keep thinking about that Alcon clip where he's talking about people are going to be chasing around things in real life, right? And also the utility that they can bring to retail, to physical locations is pretty impressive, right? Because if they can drive people somewhere to go get an NFT, then also they've driven them to the mall or they've driven them to an event. So it's pretty awesome if you think of that from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw Epic or Regal or like downloaded their app or whatever, but they have like this like augmented reality world. You just pop open your phone just like you would VV, and you broadcast like their AR side of it, and then like all these worlds pop up, and that's what I kind of envision for VV is like you have access to all these worlds at your fingertips, and you can just click on them. And I could see that for VV for sure, because I'm like, okay, they partnered with Epico or whatever, and they haven't really announced it yet. But obviously, Epico's been like all over it. But yeah, I could definitely see that because with AR, there's like a lot of possibilities. It's not like just broadcasting this collectible or whatever. It's like you click on this world, you go into it, and then Akil's there, or the Gale's there, or Silicon, you're there, or VV Magic, and so that's what I really see as a possibility. Is like because I think when we think of AR, we think of it as like, oh, I'm over here, on my side of the world, and you're on your side of the world. But that's not the case when on some of these technologies. Like some of these platforms have developed like a way to where you can play like a board game with somebody else across the world. So that's what I'm kind of thinking maybe that they might go in.
Yeah, Kyle. I think the metaverse is really going to challenge what it means to be present. Like we could be in our living rooms across the world, but still sitting in front of your best friend and playing a game of chess, like you said. But we're there. Like we're not there, but we're there. So it's going to be interesting. And where there's so many brands on VeVe right now, any one of those brands could be a world within the metaverse. We got Star Trek, that could be a world. I remember Ron English giving us a little hints of what he was thinking about. He mentioned his Delusionville maybe being under the VeVeverse. So like with pop artists like Jermaine Rogers and Ron English, they have more creative powers or creative control over what their version, portion of the metaverse could look like. And I think that's going to be really exciting. And of course, we got Disneyland and Marvel Universe, and then you got the multiverses, infinite possibilities there. So it's just so unfathomable. I don't know. I just hope it's awesome when it comes out.
Well, let's not forget Facebook and how much money they're spending in here. It's quite a bit of money, billions of dollars.
Are they gonna buy VeVe though?
I mean, I don't even think they need it. They don't even need to buy VeVe. It's just the amount of money they're pouring in. And you know, interoperability is going to be really, really important. I think that's the key. So whatever asset you have, they're going to want it to be interoperable because they want it to work, right? Just like the internet. The internet would suck if I had to get a different browser for every web page I went to, right? So I see them really spending a lot of their energy and effort making it work in the beginning, in the early stages, and then competing down the road afterwards. So yeah, maybe someone gets bought out or something, but at least David Hughes made it clear he doesn't want to get bought out, and that they're in a position where they don't have to because they didn't take funding early.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's hard to imagine David Yu being a level 9,000 collector selling his level 9,000 collector app that he created. You know what I mean? So yeah, I couldn't imagine VeVe selling anytime soon.
And I guess someone started a rumor that Disney bought VeVe. I kind of heard that through VeVe Magic. Someone tweeted something.
That was before
Yeah.
this new conversation. That was the thing everybody was arguing about like 3 days ago. Was what NFT company were they gonna buy, and VeVe getting bought and sold and all that. Hey, but did you happen to see? I can't remember if I shared with you or not. The Bob Iger move over to Genies and Meta and all that.
No.
Yeah, so he left Disney, and so
well, he was chairman of the board, but is he still like on the board, or is he not off the board altogether?
I don't know for sure. I'm under the impression that he is not, and now he's on the board of that Genies company.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he actually stepped down from the board just recently, like a few months ago, if I remember right. But yeah, since then, he announced, and they announced, I think, March 14th, just a couple days ago, which, you know, the whole Disney thing, I think, obviously, I think that was a lot driven by actual, you know, the journalists, even, and a lot of the YouTubers. And, you know, I did have that thumbnail, but that was more just to tell people, like, hey, you know, Bob Iger is not with Disney. It's in his personal capacity, right? But yeah, so I think a lot of people thought like might be still working for Disney, or you know, it was Disney themselves. So I think a little bit of confusion on that, and I agree with VeVe Magic. I didn't think Disney was going to buy VeVe, and I actually said that the Bob Iger was going to get involved with Genies before they announced. I was doing some digging, and obviously with Bob and how he had been a part of those negotiations, a part of, like, you know, Lucasfilms, Marvel, and Pixar, you know, those being studios. Genie is also basically a studio. I mean, if you look at what they're doing, they are creating action. So I was like, man, this is a Bob Iger move for sure. And I don't see him buying one of these like random, you know, generative projects, although he has bought some NFTs before. I just didn't see him as a business move and doing that, you know. But yeah, the Genies it looks cool, and they've already partnered with I think Warner as well and some other big brands. So I think that's going to be to watch here in the near future. But yeah, that's all I got. I mean, my phone, my earbuds are gonna die. I don't know if anybody, Kill, if you wanna, I can make you a co-host, or Beauty Magic, or whoever, and you guys can continue if you want.
I'm okay if you want to close the space down, unless Silicon or Gail or one of you guys wants to keep it going.
No, I feel like it's very productive and you know, needed. And I think a lot of people will enjoy the rewatch on your stream, Kyle, on your channel.
Oh, appreciate you, and appreciate everybody for being here. And I agree. I think it was positive and good, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the future. I think we got exciting times with VeVe, and the future of NFTs. So thank you everybody for being here and everybody in the audience, and we appreciate you. Much love, peace, love, VeVe, and have a great day.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate.
I go disco crazy. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's wonderful. In the VeVe verse, this gon' be my theme song. In the Matrix, I feel like I'm Neo. In my showroom, I got NFTs, so I've been gaming, look at all this crypto. Ready Player One, we gon' run it up. Life feel like The Sims, I'm leveling up, oh yeah. But let's see my toe, I've been investing for a minute. AR glasses on my dome, VeVe my vision. I'm on a blockchain in the space coupe. We do a show and turn it to venue, oh yeah. Digital skin, still I stay true. Immutable wax, brand new worldviews, oh yeah. Why me take off in my DeLorean? In the Metaverse, but what were we in? In the VeVe verse, we been going.